Meeting of the Chavano Park City Council to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Lee Powers, and the invocation will follow. Conrad Kirkendall will lead us in the invocation. If you would all please stand.
United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, thank you for another day. Help us to serve you and make good decisions up here, and bless our first responders and all of our employees. Thank you for the rain that happened in some areas around San Antonio, and help us to serve you better. Amen.
Amen. Item 3, citizens be heard. There are no citizens be heard. Brings us to item number 4. Lee.
For reminding me it wasn't working before. I'd like to remind everybody to be water conscious. Everybody knows it doesn't rain enough this year, so watch your watering, and for goodness sakes, if you've got a sprinkler system and it's raining, turn off the sprinkler system. It looks bad, and it's actually against an ordinance. Thank you.
Pete.
Yeah, so next Monday we have Memorial Day coming up, and it's to recognize and honor those individuals who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. So just not forget that day on Monday, the 26th of May.
Thank you very much, Pete. Maggie.
Oh, it's nice to see everybody. Yeah, that's right, I'm hard of hearing. Okay, I'm going to speak into the microphone. Anyway, it's nice to see everyone here, and I hope we're starting off on a nice, cool summer. Let's all think about that. But thank you for being here.
Buddy.
Oh, welcome, everyone. Glad to see everyone here.
Conrad.
Good to see everyone.
Well, it is good to have everybody here tonight. We have quite a few recognitions this evening in our presentations, commentations, and announcements. It has been our privilege for the last 4 years, as Judge Remy pointed out to me, to have 3 members of our city sitting as our judges and as our city prosecutor. And to begin with, we're going to ask Judge Bailey to come forward for recognition. I'm going to say some things about you, but come on forward. Up to the front, Your Honor. We are honored to have Judge Bailey with us this evening. Judge Bailey has distinguished herself as our associate judge. She is one of those people who shows up and helps us when Judge Remy is unavailable to serve as our primary judge, and she has been very instrumental in fulfilling our administrative warrants. Let me pull back the thing so you can see the. Yes, and if we could, yeah, and shake hands at the same time. Thank you. And now our chief judge, Judge Remy, and your lovely bride, because we're going to take some pictures of you after you receive the tomb that we have for you. Your Honor, you've served us with honor and distinction. I know that all of your law students are very happy that you have the honor of being called Your Honor for the rest of your life. As a law professor, I can't think of anything that would be a greater jazz for a law professor than to be a judge. We are so happy to have you in Chavano Park with your lovely bride. Come on up. Come on and. Thank you, Your Honor. Good to be with you. Item 5.3 is recognizing our immediately preceding judge. Judge Takis served us not from the moment that he was intimately familiar with the shooting that happened down at the federal courthouse here in San Antonio, but he has been distinguished as a judge in our community going back decades. In 2001, I remember when I was sitting where Pete is sitting, and that we invited Judge Takis to become our municipal judge, and he served faithfully for the next 20 years. There's something to be said for longevity. And unfortunately, one of the things about longevity is you get old while you're doing it, and Judge Takis has now passed. We have a proclamation recognizing Judge Takis and celebrating May 19th, 2025 as Stephen P. Takis Jr. Day in Chavano Park. Bill and I will make his funeral later in June, and when we do, we will deliver to his family the proclamation. We are very happy to have had Judge Takis, and it's been our honor to have had him as a part of our community. The next item on our proclamations is Whataburger sponsorship for 2025 Arbor Earth Day poster contest. And before I ask Annie to come forward, I'd just like to say a few nice things about Whataburger. Although I know that whatever I say about Whataburger pales in comparison to that fabulous institution here in Chavano Park. We are very excited to have Whataburger as a part of our community. It is one of those places where all the kids at Blattman Elementary drive by there daily as they go to school. And if their mothers are smart, they're picking up that afternoon snack or that early dinner on the way to the school. I haven't talked to anybody in Chavano Park who doesn't love Whataburger. The hamburgers are absolutely amazing. The chicken is perfect. The salads are superb. And then there are the shakes. It has a great team. And we are very, very excited to have Samantha and Annie as part of that team. And so, with that said, I'm going to invite Annie to come forward to receive our proclamation. Annie, come on down. Annie is the assistant manager.
Yeah, you can say it.
Are you the manager?
No, Sam's the manager, she's the operating partner, and then I'm her manager, I'm under her. So
You're
I'm
her
the
manager, you're Sam's manager.
Yes.
Well, we're very excited to have both of you in Chavano Park.
Thank you so much.
It is a great team. Your team does an amazing job. I know that Sam was here for Arbor Day, Earth Day, and she got called away and unfortunately couldn't be here for the poster contest presentation. But we always love having you guys here.
Thank you, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I'd also like to recognize Judge Remy and his lovely wife. Every time we've had an event here at Chavano Park, I see their two smiling faces. I've always been here and having a good time. So, so keep on coming. It's been worked out well for us. Thank you.
Very good. And then the final proclamation is Public Works Week, item 5.5. And who is going? Johnny. Johnny, come on down. Come on up. Yeah, nothing happens in Chavano Park without our Public Works Department. We're all very proud of our first responders, but as a water user and as somebody that counted on our Public Works Department during Winter Storm Uri, I can't tell you how much 3/4 of the community appreciated the fact that you kept the water running and that the kept the roads open. One of the things that I found so interesting about Public Works was when Winter Storm Uri was here, Johnny, before you got here, Frank and the guys were out putting sand on all the streets. Northwest Military remained fully passable through the entire storm. Pretty amazing. And then we made one mistake. We started to put sand over the Almost Basin. And the police department in San Antonio stopped because that wasn't in San Antonio. It's like, driving around the community during that week, I only witnessed like 6 to 10 accidents that happened there because, by golly, San Antonio didn't want us to be, our public works department to take care of their city as well. You guys do an absolutely amazing job. I'm so excited to have you on board, and I'm so excited to have all of your team members. They are a great team, and you're a great team leader. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you guys. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I'm good, Mayor.
Okay, without objection, we're now going to go to item 8.1, which is the oath of office for our 2 new aldermen. Albert T. Alleman, or Buddy Alleman, and Pete Miller. I'm going to step forward, and y'all can stand where, no, actually, I'm going to ask everybody to come out to the front, and then we'll take a couple of pictures. Well, come on up, gentlemen. It is my honor as the mayor of Chavano Park to announce the unanimous election. It is hard to get 100% vote on anything, and as it says so aptly, there are people that complain because their ice cream is too cold, and wherever truer words spoken, no. But y'all had the unanimous approval of the entire community. And so at this time, we will issue the oath of office. If you would raise your right hands and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Pete Miller,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office of
of the office of
Alderman for the City of Chavano Park
Alderman of the City of Chavano Park
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Okay, Pete, this is going to be your copy. Buddy, this is yours.
Woo-hoo.
Pete, if you would sign, and Buddy, if you would sign, and I will have her sign. Today's the 19th. May 2025. Congratulations, Governor.
Yay. Woo-hoo.
And get a picture with Pete.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you. We all know
Yay.
that Pete would be nothing without Gay and the Chavano Park women. And I don't know that I could say anything truer than that. But, Gay, thank you for all that you do for the community. Thank you for all that you do in helping Pete makes a real difference, and Buddy makes a real difference, and
Yeah.
and frankly, Buddy, I'm just so excited that your family didn't have to show up from El Paso or something, because the first time you got sworn in, you were in El Paso, and they all got behind you live and joined you to be signed in. So it's very good. Thank you. Buddy, congratulations. Thank you. Brings us back to item number 6, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired by any alderman on any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately at the end of the regular agenda. Do we have a motion to approve and/or accept items 6.1 through 6.7?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Maggie and a second from Pete to approve items 6.1 through 6.7. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item number 7, city manager's report. All matters listed under this item are considered routine by the city council and will only be considered at the request of one or more aldermen. Coincident with each listed item, discussion will generally occur. Is there a request to pull any of items 7.1 through 7.6? There being no request, it brings us to the regular agenda. Item 8.2, discussion action appointment of the mayor pro tem. This is a council action that takes place annually. Buddy?
I'd like to make a nomination for Conrad Kirkendall.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Conrad. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion for Conrad from Buddy and a second from Pete. Are there any other nominations? There being no further nominations, nominations are closed. We have a motion to appoint Conrad Kirkendall to serve as mayor pro tem for a one-year term. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. No, Conrad, you didn't really have a choice.
No.
Yeah.
Did you vote?
It is now 6:49, brings us to item 8.3, public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive comments from members of the public regarding proposed ordinance amendments to Chapter 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited electric vehicle charging stations in business and office districts. Curtis?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is your second time looking at this ordinance. We last brought this to you at the March 24th City Council meeting, if you recall. That was to introduce the topic, and also you directed P&Z to continue their work reviewing this. And they spent the April and May meetings reviewing this, and in May, after public hearing, recommended the amendments that I'll be presenting here tonight. Just a brief background I'll go through again to remind everybody. So in 2022, we allowed electric vehicle charging stations in B1, B2 zoning districts, that's business zoning districts, with something called a special use permit, which requires a ordinance, a public notice to all the properties around it, a public hearing is called, planning and zoning and city council levels, $750 fee. So it's quite intensive, the process of it. We've only issued one since we introduced that ordinance. It was a USIO in 2023. And that was for one charging station. You can see in this rendering, it's just a rendering in their application, but for the 2 parking spots. So in our proposed ordinance, when we started this, we thought, well, EV charging stations are not defined in our ordinance. When we allowed those uses, we did not define it. So that business that just had one charger, they just wanted for their employees, and they were going to open up for their customers to come to their business as well, they had to go through a whole special zoning use process. Frankly, we thought that was bureaucratic. So we started out with this, we wanted to define it. So this ordinance defines for the first time what EV charging stations are, level 1, 2, and 3. We got the Department of Energy, you'll see those definitions in a second. The basics of it, we allow 1 to 2 of these stations per business lot, not for every single tenant of a business, but for the lot. And without the special use permit. They go through the permitting process of an electrical permit and a fire marshal review. If you want to do more than two, so if a business wants to install a bunch of these, then they have to go through the same special use process and get approval by city council, and you would have a chance to review that in detail if a business wanted to retrofit them to a mass EV charging. We prohibited level 1 chargers. Those are the slowest chargers. They can take up to 24 hours to do a car, and that creates, from our police, the vandalism and crime opportunities have been reported in other jurisdictions where these are allowed. Cars are left unattended overnight. It creates a lot of vandalism problems. Those are prohibited under this proposed ordinance. We added the fire marshal, as I already mentioned, and their plan review and inspection. We added, this is new since the March presentation, public parking spaces of an existing public parking space under this proposal is restricted for private EV charging. So if a business says, I want this just for my car and my employees, they're taking a public space and retrofitting it to private, then it's removed from the calculation for the number of parking spaces they have to offer. And I can get into that. And then we added staff give monthly report to city council on the EV charging stations. They'll be added to our permanent reporting as you get every single month. And draft fees, we propose a $400 permit fee for this EV charging station permit. So here are the definitions. I'll just read the very top here. The electric vehicle charging station means a power supply device includes alternating current, direct current, wireless charging devices, supplies electrical power to recharging electric vehicles. We got levels 1, 2, and 3 here. These are verbatim from the Department of Energy for the voltage, the kilowatts, outputs for these different types of stations. And then we come in here in the regulations after we define it, and I'll just run through, hit some highlights in here. Under A, so we say here, any business in B1, B101 can charge 2 of these, a level 2 or 3 levels. We prohibit level 1. Then we come in at B and say they have to be installed on National Electric Code, electric permit, fire marshals, fire plan safety review, still happens. Any business, then we come in at C here. Any business that installs more than 2, so you come in with 3, 4, 5, 6, you have to do the special use permit as same as they have to do today and get approval from city council. We add this, businesses in the O1 district are not eligible for an EV charging station use permit because today in our code, we don't allow gas stations or EV charging stations in O1, which is the lowest, lightest level commercial district we have. So they can still install 2, but someone cannot propose to take a business and retrofit it to a EV charging station, same that they couldn't do as a gas station under our code today. In D here, this is this language here. At the crux of it is any EV charging stations added to existing parking spaces that you restrict the usage to the employees or executives, for example, are deducted from the required parking stall ratio for businesses. We reference in our code. If you open it to the public, if they put an EV charging station, they want any of their customers. If Merit Coffee or any retail company you could think of, they wanted to offer an EV charging and offer it to their customers, that's still public parking. That would not be deducted. But they said, this is only for the executive or this is only for my employees. They're taking public parking and restricting it so it wouldn't count to our minimum requirement. And then E there is a simple city staff reports to city council. With parking stall ratio, we don't normally talk about too often, but what it's referencing is that table there underneath there in which every single business zoning district, we have a ratio for the square footage. This happens in plan review, permitting. If the building is 1,000 square foot, they have to have a minimum of 5 parking spots allowed. And that's done in the plan review. So how this would simply function is if the permit came in, they restricted it, we have easily can calculate the ratio of the required number of the parking spots. If it took them below it, so if they had to have 5 in the simple situation and they restricted one of their spots and they only had 4, the permit would be denied. Now they could still, I guess, come in with a special use permit. Anybody can make that request to city council in Texas, but as this easier pathway we set up with an electrical permit, it would be denied. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, it is now 6:56. Are there any citizens' questions, comments, or concerns? No citizen questions, comments, or concerns. The public hearing portion of this agenda item is now closed. Item 8.4, EV charging ordinance. Discussion action, ordinance O 2025-006, amending Chapter 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited electric vehicle charging stations in business and office districts. This is a first reading. Curtis, we're back to you. Do you have anything that you'd like to add before I entertain a motion and then we open it up for discussion?
No, Mayor.
Okay. There being nothing additional, at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance O 2025-006, amending Chapter 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited electric vehicle charging stations in business and office districts as a first reading. Pete?
So moved.
We have a motion from Pete. I could tell that you were just ready to push your button down, and yeah, I have good peripheral vision. Do we have a second? We have a second from Lee. We're now open for discussion. Pete?
So, my question is when this came before council, I guess several months ago, one of the questions that was asked had to do with fire, if a fire were to ensue. And Chief Dover came forward and he said they have these special blankets that they put over the vehicle in order to put it out, and was talking about that we were, I don't know if we were in the process or thinking about it or if that was on the back burner. My question is, do we have one of those blankets, and are there any plans to get one?
We don't have a blanket at this time. In the budget objectives, which will be next Wednesday, the chief has identified a requirement for 2. So again, it's one of those things that we'll balance as we go through the funding ability and see what we want to do.
Okay. Lee?
If someone is working overnight at one of these businesses over here and decides his Tesla needs a charge, doesn't have one, we've just said it's illegal to have a charging station of type 1. If he runs an extension cord from his office out the window to his car and plugs in, what happens?
Our ordinance wouldn't address that. Here, we're talking about a zoning ordinance where we're saying what can allowed be use on a property. If anybody, people all the time take very unsafe decisions with generators and plugging stuff up in their houses, unfortunately.
But my question is one of patrol common sense. A level 1 charger for an electric vehicle is a wall plug and an adapter that plugs into the side of the vehicle. If patrolman's driving through up here next to our restaurant back in there and he sees an orange cord leading out from a window of a business and plugs in the car, will he be required to take action under this ordinance?
Yeah, I think he would. And so I think that common sense would say, well, and we may have to put it out, hey, I saw something unusual. There'll be discussion with the staff and probably the chief, the lieutenant, and maybe the assistant chief. And then how we proceeded, we'd go investigate it and talk to them. I mean, being the new owner of an electric golf cart, I read the instructions and it says you're not supposed to charge it with an extension cord.
Right.
But I think that's a safety thing because everyone does.
Yeah, everybody but Tesla uses a J1772 charger, which is made to be plugged into a wall with up to 50 feet of extension cord. Anything over that is definitely, chief, fire hazard, all sorts of hazard. I would like to be told that there's going to be education of the officers to know what to do with this, and it should be a citable offense on a second or following violation, because this is a fire hazard.
Well, and I'll cover that when I get to my questions as well. Conrad?
So I guess, well, that'd be a fire, that's a electrical violation, right? Yeah. So I imagine it would be addressed there, correct? Right, that's my point. So I'm curious if we've had a lot of demand for charging stations. Any phone calls or whatever? Just curiosity.
Actually, Curtis brought it up and says, hey, there's not been a lot of demand, but why don't we preempt any situations which might not be done? So hats off to Curtis for doing that. It is, because Paul and I were talking, it would be a code violation if they did this level 1 thing. But, you know, like a lot of things, it would probably be out of ignorance. We would talk to them and there would be compliance, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple of questions. I'm thinking of the business district at the corner of Lock Hill and De Zavala. Those buildings are individually owned. The lots are, it's a communal lot, I believe. Conrad, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a communal lot. How are we going to allocate out parking spaces? Because, you know, if you have a single owner and you have a single lot, then the 2 units makes a whole lot of sense. It's understandable. It fits well. When you look at De Zavala, at Lock Hill, at the business area, I don't know how that works.
So the short answer is that we have many other parts of our codes where it's based on the whole building. So sign code is a great example. Each individual leasee in these large buildings, but we have a restriction on the
Yeah,
total
but
building. So
there-
we
there are
require
7
them to
buildings.
check with the
There's a
property.
commercial owners association for each one of those properties.
But there's 7 buildings, Bill.
And the commercial owners, there is a president of their commercial, and there's a secretary and a treasury, and they don't do anything without the approval of that.
Okay, I think that we need to actually say how that applies when you have multiple owners of properties, because you defined it by building. And sometimes people just say, I don't really care what my builders associate, my BOA, business organization, association says. They may just say, hey, or it may be, well, I've got my 2 and nobody else is going to get theirs. Is that the correct answer? I don't know. I'm just asking on behalf of that particular BOA to have some type of clarification on how we would be doing this, because it would not surprise me that that would be one of the locations that would have more interest instead of less interest. Conrad?
We assign parking spots to each building over there. I don't know if that's in the bylaws or whatever, that gets written down, or they spray paint them, and that's it. So, no one has a Tesla over there, it's not an immediate worry, so.
No,
But yeah,
Mayor, we can take a look at that.
Yeah,
I can tell you that there was a building that had a ugly Southwest art-colored sign, and a new tenant came in, and it took them 6 months to get approval from their Business Owners Association to change the color to a neutral tan color and redo the sign.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of that is, the owners can't, the tenants can't do anything without their approval, but their approval is made up of the Property Owners Association, and
Well, what Conrad just said was, hey, we really don't have any rules, and everybody has been allocated their spaces for their building. And then, of course, there are overflow spaces in that lot, but every one of those buildings has a certain number of reserved spaces. And if you've got reserved spaces, it's going to be difficult for the Business Owners Association to say, no, you can't do that.
like we say, we'll look at that.
Yeah, if we
But
can
we
figure it out.
also generally looked at, are there any areas in Chevrolet Park that we have a parking problem that this would even raise its head? And the only area that may exist is the Pond Hill Retail Center and maybe parts of Napier Park. Every other building in practical purposes has far in excess parking that won't be an issue.
Okay. Second question goes to signage. There are dramatically different rates on these for charging hours for commercial charging. If you're using the 500 kilowatts versus the 240 kilowatts, you're going to peak pricing on your electric bills. I would appreciate if there could be some type of signage that tells people that, hey, we're putting you on notice that the rates at the fast charge is going to be a lot more expensive. Second thing, going back to Lee's observation about overnight parking and charging, just simply having something that says put people on notice so that when we actually give them a ticket the first time, because Susie's not going to do that, but Janie will do it after Susie, and then Pete comes along, and then Bob is like, well, I didn't get a notice. How come I'm getting a ticket? If we have signage up and we tell them no overnight charging, Susie, Pete, and Bob all know, and we don't have to rely on Janie to tell us that, hey, you can't do this overnight. So if we could also address some type of signage or consider that.
If you will, sir, two things come to mind. Number one is you can have it posted that after business hours, vehicles charging must be attended. That's one
Great.
thing. And the second is, anybody with a lick of sense and knows how electricity works knows that if you've got a light in a parking lot that comes on at night, it's got a live wire and it's got a neutral at the bottom and a plate, and it's nothing at all to go in there and put in a female plug to hook up to, because that's what they work off of. So I have seen individuals with a screwdriver open up the little panel at the bottom and pull out a clandestine plug and plug in their car, not 2 miles from our city limits. Totally against fire code and electrical code. So we'll educate the officers as time permits.
Okay, very good. If there's no further questions, comments, concerns, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance O 2025-006, amending Chapter 36 of the City of Chavano Park Code of Ordinances to define and allow limited electric vehicle charging stations in business and office districts as a first reading. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item 8.5, discussion action special warranty deeds to transfer to city ownership of the green belts in Rogers Chavano Park Unit 17 and 2 green belts in Rogers Chavano Park Unit 1819 in the vicinity of Willowwood and Bentley Manor subdivisions. Bill?
I think the city's been wrestling with green belts and what to do with them probably since about 1999, the floods of 98 and 2002. And at some point in time in the early 2000s, portions of the Chavano Creek green belts were deeded to the city, but not all of them. And then as Bentley Manor was built out, most of those were deeded to the Homeowners Association of Bentley Manor. They were all Rogers Ranch properties as part of the development from Unit 16, then 17, 18, 19. Believe it or not, in 2021, actually in the July City Council meeting, we came to you and said, hey, Bitter Blue is looking to offload these. It's not a great advantage for us to own them, other than if somebody doesn't own them, then no one will have any control or be able to shape it. And should some need arise in the future, the entities that created these developments, units, Chavano Park Unit 16, 17, 18, and 19, et cetera, they will have been dissolved, and then no one they'll be paralyzed to do anything. So we briefed you all on that, and a motion was approved to negotiate the transfer of the property with Bitter Blue, subject to coming back to City Council and Council authorizing the ending contract, which is what we're doing tonight. During that conversation in July, there was some question about how would we maintain them, what's the policies associated with that. So in the November 21 City Council meeting, staff brought a proposed policy, and City Council approved the Greenbelt policy for how to maintain it, which basically says we're not going to do landscaping, we'll just do management of that, which is take care of things when it becomes a hazard, so to speak. So that was all done. Well, then recently, I know Laddie's been trying to wrap things up. In May, he presented to us three documents, basically. 2 specialty warranty deeds that covered the bits of property, and then a quick deed, a quick claim deed for 2 green belts in Chavano Creek. And I want to talk about that. If you can go to the map. Okay, so there's 2 maps. This is the first map. This is the northern part of Chavano Park. And you can see at the top of your screen, there's a little box in purple that says 6. And then there's a 1, 2, 3, and then a 7. Areas 1, 2, and 3 are part of what we would be receiving. That's 1, 2, and 3. Area 6 and 7 are water basins. And those will be deeded to the prospective Commercial Owners Association. So we're only talking in the north, 1, 2, 3. And then if you look just south of 3, there is a green belt that splits basically Mossy Cup West and Bentley Manor. That is not labeled, but that's owned by Bentley Manor. We're not pursuing that at this time. The second map is the area between Chavano Creek from De Zavala extending south. And then that's about 50% of Chavano Creek. And then the other green belts going all the way to Huebner, we already own. And so this makes perfect sense. Both of them actually do. And so that's kind of how that works. In the north, if you can go back to the first one, I would just mention that there is a sidewalk that exists. It starts just north of box number 7. It extends through box number 3 into number 2, and then it extends into that green belt that is owned by Willowwood and that sidewalk. So the city currently maintains the sidewalk in areas 3 and 2 currently now. And so that's where that is. There's no other existing infrastructure in the areas that we're aware of. The 3 documents, which are 2 warranty deeds, the negotiated price is $10 each, and then the quick claim deed is $10 as well. So I might just talk about, you might wonder what's the difference between a warranty deed and the quick. And here's from Laddie's attorney. The legal title to 2 of the tracts is shown as vested in old partnerships, which is the one that map in Chavano Creek, dating back to Unit 16, ceased to exist years ago. Because the partnerships no longer exist, they cannot provide title warranties to the grantee. For those 2 tracts, as a workaround, we proposed quick claims from Bitter Blue as the former general partner of the dissolved partnership. For the tracts that are vested in existing partnerships, we use the more typical special warranty deed to do that. Our attorney has looked at both of these. We've consulted with Bitter Blue's attorney. This makes sense. You can Google it. The quick claim deeds are done commonly when you want to claim something, you want to pass ownership, and you do it with people that you trust mostly, right? So obviously, to this degree, this land has not changed hands since 1947, and it's been owned by the Rogers family, and we have a relationship with Bitter Blue that goes all the way back into the early 70s, and our current relationship with them is fantastic. So all this is in good faith. And so anyway, we're recommending approval of the special warranty deeds for Unit 17 and 18, and then also the quick claim for Unit 16.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the acceptance of the special warranty deeds for transfers of 3 green belts to the city of Chavano Park in units 17, 18, and 19, and a quick claim deed, transfers of true green belts in unit 16, and authorize the mayor's execution. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Maggie and a second from Conrad. We're now open for discussion. Lee?
I love free stuff. What is our access to this property? Do we have clear access to it from more than one end?
Absolutely.
Okay.
From this map right here, that's where the bridge is. It goes under almost Basin
Okay.
there.
And what is our maintenance requirement for our stellar staff?
Well, there's been no maintenance requirement for anybody in years. Now, if there was a significant rain event, there could be some deadfall that went in there and became a quagmire in certain areas. I have walked through most of these, frankly.
I don't remember ever having that big a problem in 4 and 5. I've been down there myself. Have we ever had clogging from debris from rain?
As I understand it, in the early 2000s, the firefighters and Public Works partnered together to do for quite some time, to do debris clearing and cutting
Okay.
and removal. You would recall in 1998 and 2002, if you were here, I was not, but I studied up on it. There was 2 significant rain events, which may have been 200 or 500-year rain events. As a result of that, up north of 1604, in the part of the Martin Marietta Beckman mine where Laddie controls, he created a water detention basin which is supposed to hold 2 500 storm events at one time.
To 200.
He told me recently that it was 2 500-year storm events. Regardless, it's a significant amount of water that's retained there. It would overflow and the velocity would be less. So as part of the drainage study that I walked through back there recently, between Bentley Manor and Hunter's Branch South, and even Elm Springs, at the very end of Elm Springs in that cul-de-sac, recently, as of last month, there is not a huge amount of quagmire logs. There's a few, but it is so broad that the water is not going to dam up anywhere in there. To do any kind of maintenance in there, you can't put a tractor back there, for the most part. The rocks are just, it would be almost unsafe. You would have to have specialized equipment. There's areas you could do that, but with the slopes and all that stuff, if you're not doing that, and then the overhead branches, having some experience this weekend with a branch hitting me right here. Yes, it would be a difficult task to do anything with heavy equipment. You could go in and you could cut it with chainsaws and you might be able to haul it out.
Okay. Okay. Pete?
So my question is to Paul. Paul, whenever you take ownership of anything, you also take on liability. What liability are we taking on?
As far as the deeds and the conveyances, the special warranty deeds are covered. There's minimal to no liability there. That can be relayed back to the previous ownership, or can be taken care of through title insurance, which will be included with those conveyances. The quitclaim deed is, you're not going to find many lawyers or real estate lawyers that advise that unless you are in a situation where your selling party, as in this case, can be not only trusted but researched and determined what the history is of the ownership. And then even previous to that, in this case, we have the Rogers family, and most title searches go back 20 years and they stop there, and you're trying to make safe into that period and find if there's a possibility of clouds on title or something that's going to come up, a lien or a tax lien or a mortgage of some sort, if it was used to securitize any kind of financing. In this case, we're really focused on Bitter Blue or Mr. Denton, who effectively is or was the controlling partner of these partnerships that owned that land for more than that period of time. So there's a trust with him in the community, but there's also documentation and research that allows us to see what happened. And as his attorney advised, it's a legal impossibility to secure any kind of warranty from a partnership that no longer exists. So at that point, you're stuck. And what do you do to create a chain of title and a legal ownership, a deed that you can file in the property records? That's what we can do here with a quitclaim deed, and that's pretty much all we can do here. That is a legal valid deed in the state of Texas. There was a long-time state law that had been abolished that after 4 years, a quitclaim deed is presumed a valid deed, and presumed that could be defended as having clear title. That was abolished, but it was reinstated in 2021, and we're back to that again. So under state law, if you file that deed, quitclaim deed in the property records for these portions of property that are covered by that, then after 4 years, there'll be a presumption that that's clear title. If you look back, you'll find Mr. Denton and his organizations. I was contemplating requesting, and this can be done under the ordinance or under the arrangements in the transaction, that there'd be essentially a affidavit of heirship, so to speak, which is, in this case, not what it sounds like. It's just to document that those organizations that owned it, the dissolved partnerships that no longer exist, Mr. Denton and his companies have the documents that show those organizations actually did exist and were registered. The state has the documents that show that those existed. That will prove that help with the security of the title. And so I'll wrap that up. The exposure to liability on the possibility of the title having some sort of problem or claim is, even just by conveyance with a quitclaim deed, is minimal in this situation. And they're one-on-one unique situations. In this case, it is that, and the history of the property and the ownership we're fairly clear on, and can be reasonably, or if not more, assured that it's a clear title that we're gaining, and we'll have even more assurance by the time we close the transaction itself.
So,
Bill, from operational standpoint, what are the operational risks?
yeah, so I think what you're really asking is, it's public property now, someone wanders into it, they get hurt, what happens to their, so we register all our property with TML, IPR, this municipal tract, for example. I don't have the numbers exactly, but you're not talking about a huge cost. So it will be registered as city-owned, and then it'll fall under our insurance policy. There may or may not be requirements for us to post signs. I mean, generally speaking, I don't like to draw attention to things that people don't know that are there. Like one time we put a sign on our gate going into the water well number 6 that, close the gate. I mean, or don't leave it open, or water well number 6, right? And so
You tell me some people
I don't
keep
want
out
them
as
to
a
know
challenge.
that. Yeah, so I think we're good.
Yeah. Pete, there are known hazards and unknown hazards. For known hazards, we're responsible. For unknown hazards, generally, Texas law says,
Yeah.
what you don't know until you know it. It's like that biting dog. Second thing, just as far as the clear title, Alan is a dirt attorney, and he wants to do things perfectly. Another part of Texas law provides that if you've been paying the property taxes for a certain period of time and you don't have title, that you own that property because the other person sat on their rights. I would anticipate that if we were to look at this, Laddie Denton and Denton Communities has paid all the property taxes, and he's the one giving us the quitclaim deed, and so he is giving us this property. But as to Paul's comment, I do think that for the first period of years, at least to get us through the 4-year window, we will want to have demonstrated that we are taking control of the property. Taking control of the property means going and getting a stick on each one of those locations annually to be able to say, yes, I have dominion and control over this property. And then at the end of the 4 years, we have 4 sticks on each one of the properties. We're going to have 20 sticks. We're going to have demonstrated that we actually have ownership of the property. So my only recommendation, because I do think that Laddie had the ability from the standpoint of a taxpayer to transfer title, that we want to demonstrate dominion and control. Okay, there being no other questions or comments or concerns, although there may still be concerns, we have a motion to approve, a motion and second to approve the acceptance of special warranty deeds for transfers of 3 green belts to the city ownership in units 17, 18, and 19, and a quitclaim deed transference of 2 green belts in unit 16, and authorize the mayor to sign. Do we have, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. Item 8.6, discussion action, appointment of municipal judge pursuant to ordinance O 2025-008, appointing a municipal judge of Municipal Court Number 1 to the city of Chavano Park. This is an administrative ordinance, and it will be enacted by a vote this evening. Maggie and I had the opportunity to meet with Judge Mario Trevino. Mario has a lot of experience with 3 other courts, which goes back decades. And by decades, I mean 3 decades. This guy has got a lot of experience. And from a strategic standpoint, Bill is recommending that this is a good time to have a judge. Maggie and I, as a part of that subcommittee, concur with his impression that this is a good time to have that. Having interviewed with him, we did not consider it necessary to reach beyond that. We have our own professional impressions of him, his vast experience, communications that Bill has had with council members for clarification, as well as our judge and probably our prosecutor. And so at this time, we would recommend that we retain Mario Trevino not as our primary judge, but as a judge, in order to have him take the overflow dockets and any cases that there would be an ethical conflict for Judge Delnig to sit on. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to appoint Mario Trevino as our judge. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Buddy. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Maggie. We're now open for discussion. There being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0. I'm sorry that I talked so long to say nice things about him. Item 8.7. It's now 7:30, guys, by the way. I'm sorry that it's already 7:30. Discussion action, compensation of the municipal judge and city prosecutor. Brenda and Bill. Bill, do you want to start off? And if Brenda needs to say something, we can call on Brenda.
Absolutely. Brenda did a lot of work last year to do a survey in terms of judge and prosecutor compensation. You may or may not recall, but in the budget process, we didn't go full out, but we made a step forward where we increased the compensation for both from $650 to $750. But I asked her to dust that off and to take a look at it again. And what I found is there's a fairly significant gap still between the compensation for a municipal judge and what we had been currently working. And so in your council packets, I included some information. It's not completely extensive. We can provide that if there's any questions. I didn't think there would be. And I also had a sit down with Judge Dolnick, who, as the judge of 8 other cities, provided me a detailed listing of that. And then based upon that, I'm making the recommendation that we increase the judge's pay from 750 to 900, and that is based upon my personal question to him and his recommendation as well, and then retaining the prosecutor at this time at the 750. And I'll pause.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Curtis, would you go on a little bit farther down, please? Second page. Okay. We've had an opportunity to look at the compensation for other cities. Our judge has recommended $900 and $750. Bill is affirming that. Does this have budgetary implications, Bill, or not?
Well, it does. It's $150 extra dollars a month, times 12 at least, and if there's additional cases, you would have that, and then presumably there'll be the alternate judge will sit in on some cases that are pending, and there'll be cost associated with that.
Okay. So.
But it's not a significant cost.
Okay. This would be handled as a budget amendment at the point that we make these payments. Is there any requirement under state law that we change our contract for professional services and state the exact amount, or because it's listed in the recommended action as concur? Paul, do we need an action?
We don't
item,
have
or do we
a
need to concur?
professional services contract with any of them.
Okay.
We've appointed them based upon their application.
Okay. And Brenda, how do we list these people's compensation? Do we just list a general number, or do we have it listed on a per hearing basis? We have it listed per month.
So Judge Dolnick and I talked about that. And so generally speaking, on a month-to-month basis, he's good to go with that $900. What he did say, if that there was a separate trial on a different day, that he typically expects 50% of that amount, or $450 for that, as he moves forward.
Okay. And I think that that's fine. Okay, at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to increase the municipal judge's monthly compensation to $900 from $750, and to retain the prosecutor's monthly compensation at $750. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Lee. Do we have a second? We have a second from Buddy. Is there any discussion? Pete?
Bill, just for clarification, you said we do not have a contract with the judge. So at any time, the judge can say, hey, I no longer want to work for Chavano Park. Is that correct?
He may be able to resign, but state law actually dictates what we can and can't do. And it is a 2-year term that the judge is appointed. And so
is he committed that 2 years?
He is committed, subject to the Judicial Commission allowing him to resign as a judge. He's actually shackled to us, subject to the Judicial Commission letting him go.
The city council, on the other hand, can't say, well, it's time for a new judge. It's a 2-year term. And then you can't tie any of the term and services of his service term to any pay. You can't come back later and say, oh, for example, I don't like this judge, I'm cutting his pay to $200, that's going to force him out. It's against the law to do that.
But it's not against the law to increase it.
You can increase it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Brings us to item number 8, discussion action authorizing the city manager to negotiate and possibly purchase additional Edwards Aquifer water rights on our per acre feet. I'm going to recognize Tommy Payton as the acting chair of the Water Committee. Al Whaley is out of town, and Johnny as our Public Works Director, and Bill. Bill, do you want to start us?
Well, we've been talking water rights probably since the 80s and 90s when they formed EEA, or maybe beforehand, but recently in 2017, we had a plan. It didn't survive very long, but it was a plan to buy incrementally 10 to 15 acre feet a year until we got up to 1,000. So we made one purchase in 2017, and then we didn't have a whole lot of funds in the water fund, you might recall. Got tight a little bit, and subsequently we built up our water, our fund balance in our water, and great work by some of the public works where we're doing a lot of the in-house work ourselves. But over the last 3 years, we've had to consider leasing additional water rights. And so it's a catch-22 because it's fairly easy to sublease from people that own it right now, but can't predict that in the future. That's the problem. And then we know that there's a finite amount of water rights, and that with every development and every resident that moves into Bear County, Comal County, some of the other counties out further west where the EEA controls that aquifer, it's only going to be more and more demanding. And so we have seen the price since 2017 rise from about about $5,000 an acre foot. A couple years ago, there was some sales at $7,000, $8,000. Last year, you couldn't find anything for well over 10. Now, there's a possibility that we might get water sales for 11, but there are different brokers that exist out there. And so they tend to have a list of 100, you know, I might make it up 20, 30, maybe more, maybe less, people that they're engaged with, that they represent and they negotiate. Johnny's been in touch with 2 of them. I've talked to 1 of them. I've talked to some individuals who may or may not want to sell. They tend to go back to their family members. They can't reach consensus for selling, so they just want to just keep it, to sublease it. But we have identified some very promising sources. And one of them said, hey, the going right is 12,000 an acre feet, I can get that. And then a week later, he came back 11,000. And so the Water Advisory Committee, led by, at the suggestion of Tommy actually, led by Al Whaley, tasked the Public Works Director to come up with an ad in the paper. So we crafted that. We briefed the Water Advisory Committee, I think last Monday. And so we intend to go out and advertise in Comal County, in some of the you know, the Fredericksburg newspaper, the Kerrville newspaper, these newspapers that someone might say, hey, I hadn't thought about that, but you know, if you sell 10 acre feet and you can make $10,000, that's $100,000. You can do a lot of improvements on a ranch for that. So that's kind of where we are. And Tommy's here. He can talk about the conversation that occurred on Monday.
Tommy, do you have a few words that you'd like to share with us? Brenda can come up and stand with you if you'd like to. Oh, okay.
This goes back a long way. You know, we first bought water rights back in, what year was it?
99.
99. And at that time, I still maintain, we bought for $400 an acre.
And I think 250.
And Bob's think was $250, but anyway, all I remember there's $160,000, and I think we got 400 acre feet. But it has steadily gone up since then, and it's like Bob said, it's a resource that's not going to be replenished. There's not going to be any more water rights that we can get. And the only other sources for water that we're looking at is saws, or, you know, they're talking about desalination, but one of the water board members told me that now the big plant that Saws is trying to build down around the Corpus area, that they shut that down because they can't get a discharge permit. Because when you do desalination, you only clean about 50% of the water, and you have 50% of discharge, and it has to go somewhere. And they don't want to go back in the ocean. So, you know, the mayor had an idea, and so did Mr. Hill, about let's just buy a little bit at a time and pick up some here and there, and build up to where we have enough, because we bought, I think, between 150, 175 acre feet every year for the last several years, or had to lease it to meet our demand, because but any year I don't know if y'all sure how the aquifer work or how the EAA works, but even though we have 890 acre feet of water, we only get to use about 700 acre feet of it because of the restrictions they have on it. So we need to build it up. But Johnny can tell you more, or the city manager can tell you more about it.
I will say that we have $1.9 million total funds in the water fund, of which 600,000 of that is allocated and set aside for the capital replacement fund. And then we have pending bills that we have coming up with debt service, and the ground storage tank at Chavano needs to be replaced. We've pretty much determined in the Water Advisory Committee we're going to defer that replacement, because we have a few more years to that it's got rust. It's technically not 100%, but it's doing fine. There's no hazards to it at all. And there's an annual inspection that's going to occur in July. Once we get that inspection, we're going to reassess. I've also tasked Public Works, I think it's by the end of this week, to go up there and do a preliminary inspection to see what is the condition, and take pictures and report back to me. And Johnny, you got that scheduled? We've already had most of it done, sir. Perfect. So, we have 200,000 allocated, about 160 now. And there's options which we have that we're working through, but that more than likely can be deferred, which means that you have unencumbered at least $1 million right now that's not allocated. The other thing that Johnny is doing, his team, is he's making an assessment of zoning area A3, which is the old north end of the old new part of Chavano Park, the western side, where that, in theory, in 2027, we go out for debt to go to phase 2 of the road construction. And then prior to that, we've got crossing sites, we've got water lines that are right down the middle of the street, and we've got service lines that have to be done. So based upon that, I know that even at $12,000, now we have an $11,000 deal, $240,000 or $220,000 is pretty safe at this point in time. So I'm looking incrementally at 20 acre feet, but then as we continue this assessment, going back out and looking for another 20 acre feet. And then year to year, we continue to work through this until we make a short-term goal of 1,000. But I also showed you in your packet, in the last couple of years, 1,000 only would have helped you 1 year out of the 3. But if you only need 20 more, you need 1,020. That's so much more easier to sublease than it is 120 or 220. So that's where we are.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve options number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is to acquire water. Number 2 is to advertise in area newspapers, purchasing, and I'm going to ask that the purchasing increments of water into a total that does not exceed 100 acre feet of water, as opposed to in 20 acre foot increments. If he got 50 acre feet at $11,000, I think that Bill would need to jump on that as quickly as he could. Bill, is that correct? That if somebody offered you 50 acre feet at $11,000, you would say, by golly, we're halfway home.
Well, you'd be halfway home to our goal. I might try to get it at 10,000 or 10,500, knowing me.
But we're not setting any prices. We're not setting any prices. We're setting a total number that we're trying to go out for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so at this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve options number 1 and number 2, purchasing up to 100 acre feet of water from the reserves of the water department. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Lee. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Conrad. We're now open for discussion. Pete?
So Bill, I just want to make sure I'm putting all this together. One of the important things about our water system and the beauty of it is the ability to maintain cost control on that and the rates that we charge. So what I'm hearing is our funds are sufficient enough to where you can go out and solicit these additional reserves of water without having to raise rates. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the money is, I mean, because that reserve funds are there, you're able to recover your funds as you sell the water. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then essentially, if you did the math, if you sublease the water, if you lease the water, and I can't remember where the break-even point is, but even at $10,000, $11,000, it's a number. It might be 10, it might be 15 years. But you know, we're talking about we've got to establish water rights for 100, 200 years, you know, in the long term. So we fairly certain say that even if you bought it 50, you know, that's 2017, and that's been now 8 years. You double your money at every 7 years at 10%. So this is about doubled. The water rights have gone up about 10% every year. It's probably in the last couple years because it's drought gone up more, but you know, that's what you're looking at. And I think it'll continue to go up that way. You know, every subdivision that's being built has to come up with water or it won't be approved, and they're scarfing this up pretty quick.
Pete?
Okay, so this is like a commodity. This is a commodity. It's
It is.
basically pork bellies, right? So my question.
Except for pork bellies are based upon supply and demand in a given year.
Yeah.
And we know that there is a infinite
Okay.
amount of demand and
So my question.
supply, I'm sorry.
My question has to do is actually knowing the commodity price, and the commodity price is set by SAWS. So we can always buy water from SAWS. Is that correct?
That's not true.
That's not true?
No. So SAWS actually owns a lot of water. They have the Tela Vista project, and they've got
Mr. Ridge?
Vista Ridge, and they've also got some aquifers down there which they replenish. They have enough money, and then during the period of time where they, even in this drought, they've never really had to fully use all their water rights. So they've been available to sublease at the end of the year, but typically you're not going to get SAWS to release theirs until after the calendar year, which you're now in a bind. So it's been easy to get, and we've actually been able to go with ranchers, and we've got some pretty good deals on it.
Yep. They're happy in January to lay off a little bit of water for cash, and we haven't been having to pay what a normal lease rate would be because we're coming in and that nobody else has shown up to buy water from them for January for the previous year. We can't be assured of that continuing to happen. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Do we have any further discussion? And before we close on this item and vote, I want to thank Tommy for coming down and for running the last meeting. Johnny, appreciate all your efforts in this, and Bill as well. For half of the community, this is a really important issue, and it's just unfortunate that the certificate of the CCNs for the water rights, when Tommy and I were first looking at this and the annexation of the rest of Chavano Park, we did not have the ability to go out and to develop a water system for the rest of the city. So at this time, we have a motion and a second to approve option 1 and option 2, purchasing approximately 100 acre feet in increments as determined by the city manager. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Brings us to everyone's favorite motion of the day. Item number 9, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
So moved.
Maggie has made a motion to adjourn. I think Lee wants to be the second on that one. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. The motion carries 5-0, adjourned.